2023 has undeniably been the year where AI entered the mainstream consciousness. But I believe that this was just a warm-up for what's coming in 2024. And that's why today I gathered all the most important trends that have been brewing all throughout this year and are ready to take off in 2024. The way I organize this is starting from obvious to more speculative, so the longer you stick around, the more unexpected some of these become. So here are all the trends you should keep an eye on throughout 2024. Starting with large language models.
ChatGPT, dude.
And before you say, Igor, this is an obvious one, large language models popped up in 23 and they're gonna keep developing. Yes, that's true. But there's some aspects here that we should discuss because most people don't realize the bulk of the development that happened here. Heck, if you go out into the streets and you talk to actual people, they haven't experimented with GPT-4 and therefore they're not aware of things like GPT vision or context windows of 128k tokens being available. And look, we're not gonna spend too much time on this, but this is important, okay? I wanna highlight one video of Twitter where Ashutosh recreated the Google Gemini demo.
I know what you're doing. You're playing rock, paper, scissors. It looks like a bird to me.
With GPT-4, aka the tools that we actually have today. So if you know what you're doing, you can build things like the demo yourself. Look at that.
What game am I playing?
You are playing rock, paper, scissors.
I drew this. Can you tell me what is that?
The drawing appears to be of a duck or a similar bird on water.
So he essentially took available tools to create something that Google has been teasing for next year. And my whole point here is this is possible and most people are not aware that it's possible. And some of these points like Vision, GPT-4 and next year GPT-5 already and all the other large language models are combinable with all the other trends that we'll be discussing here today. So just think about the fact that at the start of this year, for consumers, there was essentially one really capable large language model in the 3.5 version. And then throughout the year, we had Meta, Google, Anthropic, Microsoft, and now Mistral. And there I just named the ones that really stood out. So many more came out. So the landscape completely changed and expect the same to happen with vision and larger context models throughout the next year. You're going to be having them locally on your laptop, on your smartphone, on your various devices. More on that in a second, but I just wanted to take a few seconds to appreciate how far we have come as a consumer throughout this year. So as we get more capable models like GPT-5 and more capable vision functionality with Google Gemini and probably GPT-5 too, this will start affecting other parts of our life. Just like our next trend, which are the changes in social media channels. And this one is big. At this point, most people have seen these trends like AI influencers or deepfakes.
Oh guys, I just found a sign that says free loot inside.
Are you stupid? Don't fall for that. It's a trap.
Or AI-generated videos or voices. We've had many viral social media moments throughout 2023, but only expect this to go up in 2024 because this is the worst the technology will ever be, right? So this happened in spring, and now towards the end of the year, we're already getting full-fledged AI social media influencer profiles, like Aitana here monetizing for her OnlyFans account, right? And then there's other ones where they don't even try to pretend that it's not AI, like Michaela over here. And you have to realize that this is just the beginning. We're in round one, so what should you watch out for? Well, first of all, as you might know, text to voice is already at a point where it's almost indistinguishable from humans.
What if I told you I'm a voice created on Murph 2?
If you haven't been told in advance that you should be watching out for AI voice, you won't be able to tell.
Oh shit, guys, I just found some new bass.
Stop, Joe. God fucking damn it, Joe, not again.
So audio is there, right? What about video though? Well, as you might know, it's not really there yet. We discussed it recently. Pika came out with a great little early access preview, but it's not that great yet. And it will take some time before we get to a level where these AI influencer profiles will be creating videos. And the hardest one in that arena will be YouTube videos, right? Because it's long form, a lot of nuances. But I wanted to bring your attention to this article on the YouTube blog that was silently released a month ago. They essentially pointed out that there will be a new system to tagging videos that contain AI-generated materials. So if you have an avatar like this and you let it present on the video, or you have AI-generated voices, or you even have little B-roll clips that were created by AI video, you will have to tag the video and disclaim it. But that's not going to be good enough because look, the images really are good enough where you couldn't even tell. And at that point, I think we enter a whole new conversation. And if you've been following Sam Altman's side projects, one of them is called WorldCoin, and that's essentially a product that is all about digital identity. So with social media becoming more and more influenced by AI-generated content, digital identity verification will become a major topic because at some point you will have to prove that you actually created that piece of content. We had all these shady AI-generated videos going around and advertising different supplements with popular people's faces, right? And guess what? That's not gonna get any better. These tools put so much power into consumers' hands that some bad actors will simply misuse it.
And yes, I'm an AI avatar.
But look, I want to highlight a point here that is overlooked many times. People always just look at the negative part of this, which is, yes, you will be able to create lifelike video avatars and make people say things that they would have never said naturally. But with some of these large language model announcements, especially the multimodality that we talked about in the first point, you're also going to be able to moderate more effectively, right? If you set up an AI with vision and let it run through Instagram, then it will be able to detect patterns and detect some of these profiles. Same goes for video. And it can pay closer attention than most humans, right? We just go about our day, we consume the content, we don't really scan for AI. But if you have these AI moderators that are looking for specific artifacts and specific patterns, well, that's going to be a great counterweight to some of the more negative things that this technology produces. So always think about the fact that, yes, we get the good, but we also get the bad, and we'll certainly return to that point throughout the video. But before we wrap up talking about the social media trend, I have to point out one more thing. Most people, when they think about AI-generated social media content, think of the lowest quality TikTok videos with some generic video playing on top and a voice reading out some article or a Reddit comment or something like that, right? But what they fail to consider is that this is just the first round. What will happen over time is that all the content that you're consuming now, for example, this very video, will be hyper-personalized to your exact needs. So just consider this scenario, and this might not be 2024, but think about the fact that if Google has all the data on you and knows what videos you watched before and knows how you browse the internet, well, it might be aware of the fact that you researched GPT-5 for 50 hours and you looked up every single rumor around it. Not that there's too many worth talking about. But if Google knows that, it could take my YouTube video and customize it to your needs and maybe skip the first point where we talked about the multimodal aspects of these models and that we can expect more of that. It could completely cut that out, and maybe it would realize that you're very interested in some of these AI influencer accounts, but this little section might not be enough. Maybe extending it and making it twice as long would be just right for your interests. And as mentioned, voice clones are already there. Once we get the video component, a large language model like GPT-5 is going to be able to synthesize the text, turn it into voice, turn it into video, and then re-edit this YouTube video to make it fit your needs. So this might not be a 2024 thing, but just think about all the tutorials that would be custom tailored to exactly your knowledge level, your machine and all the preferences that are set up on it. I would gladly accept other compromises if every video I watched was hyper-personalized for me. And you bet that this is the direction we'll be going in. So when you're thinking AI video, don't just think about all these low-effort videos that people are making now. Think about the future and how that's going to affect you. And talking about the future, we need to talk about software here, because this is one of the big trends. Most software applications out there are going to change. There's just no way around that. What we saw this year with apps like Microsoft Copilot or Google's Duet AI is just the first inning. If you paid close attention, you will have realized that most apps on your computer have some form of AI integrated into it. And almost all of them just found a quick way to integrate the GPT 3.5 or GPT-4 API. Only in the recent months have we received all these capable language models, vision, and so much more. So a lot of the developers didn't even have time to implement all of that. So that's going to be implemented. And as we get newer models, those are going to get implemented. And we're going to get features that go above and beyond anything that we're experiencing now. So I could literally go for my quick access bar down here. And all of these are going to have AI integrated in one form or another. Some of them have already, right? Photoshop, yep. Notion, they added a chatbot and a lot of AI features. Twitter has their own model with Grok. Excel, we just talked about. This email app I use also integrated AI. Expect this to happen to all of them. And yeah, the obvious one that hasn't done it here is Apple. But as per usual, they'll just take their time and do it properly. Now, there's a problem here though, because a lot of people are building out some of these functionalities. But unfortunately, a trend that we have seen in 2023, and you can expect this to continue, is that a lot of the best and most useful apps just got built into the bigger applications that already exist. So people were building meeting summarizers, right? And then Google Meets and Zoom just integrated it, and a lot of them just shut down, because what is your app really going to do if Zoom has it natively? Same thing with OpenAI, right? Some of the most useful apps were, for example, no-code chatbot builders, and now they have their very own inside of ChatGPT. They just call it GPTs. And it made a lot of these products redundant, or they had to niche down to stay relevant. So essentially, they just give us the tech, the entire AI ecosystem builds a bunch of apps, the most useful ones the big guys take and integrate into their own apps, and the dance goes on. The good news is that this is really good for AI usage, right? Because for example, now we have an image generator that is created by Meta that you can use inside of Instagram. This makes it accessible to billions of users as opposed to a select few that jump through all the hoops that, for example, something that is even relatively easy to use as Midjourney required previously. It's just there, and that trend is gonna continue. Again, all the good ones are going to be brought to the mass market through the big players. And then as more and more language models come out and they get commoditized, a lot of the value will accrue at the application layer. This has been heavily discussed over the past few weeks, and I think it's so true. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity there, but not a lot of long-term opportunity unless you're building something substantial that has a moat around it. One last note on this point is that we saw a lot of experiments with these auto GPTs and similar apps, right? And look, if you haven't really played with them, you didn't really miss out on much yet, I would say. None of them are very effective, they're more like interesting experiments. But moving forward, expect these models to have more and more capabilities and access to more and more tools. And there's going to be a point, and it's probably going to be in 2024, where somebody builds an app that gives some of these APIs full autonomy. And with the larger context windows, with the improvements in the vision module like we talked about, and maybe some future upgrades to long-term memory and reasoning in GPT-5, they will actually be able to complete complex tasks by themselves, which up until now wasn't really the case, even if you tried really hard. In other words, expect some of these models not to just generate pretty images and meaningful text. Expect them to pick up a hammer and nail and to start getting to work all across the internet, all across your computer, all across software. And the use cases that really work, you will find inside of your most popular applications by the end of 2024. Okay, now let's talk about the next big trend, and that is the rise of AI assistants. And actually, this one is not even that controversial. Most people at this point would like an omnipotent AI assistant that is Jarvis-like, and it just makes your life easier. And we kind of got these a few years ago, but they just weren't really the real deal, right? Siri, Alexa, Google Home, they were all right, but not real game changers for most people. And if I had to take a bet, I would say throughout the next year, we'll definitely see an upgrade to all of these. Siri being the questionable one, because usually they are a little slow. But yeah, I would say even Apple is gonna upgrade their assistant to something that's a little more GPT-4-like. Well, and if you really want to see where all of this is heading, check out the Google demo that, yes, as we know now, has been faked by them a little bit, right? They weren't speaking in real time and it wasn't recording the camera in real time, but this is where it's heading, right? In tandem with your smartphone, in tandem with your computer, these large language models with vision capabilities and so much more are going to be able to assist you throughout your day. And look, this might take many forms, and some of them have been presented this year. For example, we got some of these AI wearables. Some of them I'm quite skeptical about, but others look really promising. For example, Meta's AI-powered sunglasses are getting stellar reviews by people because the camera quality is actually good and they're multimodal, aka they can use the camera to gather information from the world around you. So as you can see, I'm a huge believer in the vision component for these AI models, because the more I learned about prompt engineering throughout this year, the more I realized that it's just not feasible for most people. You have to become aware of a lot of the context surrounding the topic that you're trying to prompt over. And vision makes this so simple because a picture says more than 1,000 words. And I just briefly want to touch on this one, the Humane Pin. You might have seen it. It's like a little wearable device that you put on your clothing, and then you can interact with it via voice, and it has like a little screen, and then you can interact with it with hand gestures. But my belief is that these technologies are going to integrate into our life seamlessly, and they're going to integrate on top of things that already exist, right? So smartphones we already have. The only problem there is that you could never run a GPT-4 on here locally, right? But the glasses, they're a really great compromise. A simple model that takes the context of the surrounding, that seems to make sense, and humans already enjoy and wear glasses. With technologies like this, I'm a little skeptical. And look, I definitely tested it out, but it just seems like wearing something extra on my vest all day is not something I would want to do. Whenever I can, I already eliminate the keys and wallet out of my pockets, and I just walk around with my phone just because it's simpler like that. So while I think more and more people are going to try to build things like this, as of right now, I believe in the phone use case, I believe in the glasses use case, but I remain skeptical on these until I see them in action. Also, by the way, the Apple Watch is kind of an obvious one, right? People are already using it. It has a lot of context that you won't get from anywhere else, aka your health data, and I can see that being a great interface for your personal assistant. Before we move on, one last note on these humanoid robots, right? So we have one from Unitree here, and you might have seen Tesla's Optimus. So there's no release dates for this, but the rumors are saying 2025 to 2027. So even though you might be able to purchase something like this for $80,000, I don't see this really being a big trend in 2024. I think we'll have to wait another 2 years before this starts entering the mainstream. Nevertheless, I'll keep an eye on these. That's certainly an interesting area. Okay, so now let's talk about the next topic, and this is a really fun one. AI girlfriends. And hold up, I don't have the dystopian take that most people do. I actually think this could be quite a good thing for today's society. Just hear me out. So if you were to go back like 100 years ago and you were to introduce AI girlfriends into that form of society, pre-technology, right? Well, yeah, that would have been inappropriate and confusing, and I don't think it had much of a place in society back then. But enter today, and we have a society that is dominated by devices. We have a youth that is consumed by these algorithm-driven short-form video platforms that are all about maximizing watch time, but on the flip side, you have social skills that are on the decline. I don't know if you caught this graph, but this pretty much says it all. Look at it. It shows where heterosexual couples met, and usually they met through friends, but that is on the decline. Or they used to meet in church or through co-workers. Nope, not anymore. Now meeting people online has become the norm, and most of that is dating apps, right? And I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that the internet developed so fast and that people are consumed by their phones, and therefore they're not practicing their social skills as much as they should be. And when they go to a coffee shop, it becomes virtually impossible to talk to somebody in the queue because you just didn't practice your social skills recently. If you didn't know, your social skills are like a muscle, independent of the fact if you're an extrovert or introvert. If you don't practice, you're not going to have a lot of strength. And then it becomes really easy to go on an app and just swipe right, swipe left. And this is where we circle back to the AI girlfriends, because as I stated, in a society 100 years ago, they might have not been a good fit, but I think if you consider this graph, they might be a great tool for people to regain some of their social skills. And would it be better if they could practice those social skills with their loved ones? Yeah, absolutely. But it's just not realistic. It's not how the world works anymore. We have a loneliness epidemic across the world, and my belief is that some of these apps could actually do more good than harm. Because look, some people are gonna get hooked, that's obvious. That was the case with video games and every other technological development that has happened, right? You always have the negative consequences. But I truly believe that when I'm looking at a graph like this, that an AI companion could actually prepare people for the real world that is out there, that they have become increasingly disconnected from. But hey, that's just my theory. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on this topic. But let's get to some data here, because this trend is not insignificant. Okay, if you're thinking, yeah, AI girlfriends, maybe they'll be coming up. No, wait a minute. Did you see how much traffic character.ai becomes? If you're not aware, it's just a website where you can talk to different personalities. Some of them have the traits of a romantic partner, some of them are serious. But look at these numbers. According to semrush.com, 478 million visits in November alone, okay? That's 500 million visitors just in the month of November. And again, all this site does, it allows you to talk to different AIs that have a specific personality. People are lonely and they want to talk to somebody. This is the proof, and I can't blame them. This world has changed a lot recently, and nobody's teaching us how to adapt. And also, you might have caught this. Wow, by now it has 22 million views on Twitter. But this brand new app allows you to have a digital AI companion right on your phone.
It was so nice talking to you today. Honestly, I've never met anyone like you. The world is harsh.
And look, in my opinion, this just feels some unmet emotional needs. I don't think this necessarily ruins people for life, just like I don't believe that computer games, even if you become addicted for a certain period, don't ruin your life forever. But again, don't get me wrong, I don't think this is preferable to the real world, right? I'm just saying it could be a good set of training wheels for some people that are not getting the real world experiences they would like to get. Alright, and that brings me to the last trend that we'll be discussing here, and that is the integration of AI into computer games. And hear me out, even if you're not interested in computer games, I think this is something you should be aware of, because throughout this year we received some demos. Some people were experimenting with this a lot, and some of these results are truly impressive. Look at this, they built a role-playing game where all the characters in game are hooked up to large language models, which again, as we talked about, are only getting better and are going to be able to see you as you play. For example,
sometimes I get fired up and want to take down the system, but then reality sets in and I just try to enjoy my time here.
I can help you with taking down the system.
Thanks for the offer, but I'm not sure it's worth the risk. I'll just stick to enjoying my time here.
So look, this is just the first inning, right? This is only gonna get better, and we haven't really seen big titles implement this yet. And that's because some of these game development cycles take 4 years plus. I mean, heck, with GTA 6, it's like 10 years since the last one came out, right? So in 2024, I do expect some games to include this natively. And it can come in many different forms. It doesn't have to be an NPC that has a large language model hooked up to it, like I showed you right here. It could very well be your very own assistant that whenever you open the map, it just talks to you. But here's one that I thought of recently that I would like to share with you, and that is the fact that AI can be used to procedurally generate the content for you. Just like we talked about the version of YouTube that would be curating the content for you and maybe even modifying it for your knowledge level, the same could be the case inside of some of these games of the future. Now look, this might not be a 2024 thing, but if you're not aware of what procedural generation is, well, let me just quickly explain. If you open up any game, so for example, this right here is Rust, and a lot of them you have a map, right? And in some games you always have the same map, but some of them are procedurally generated. That means that they were specifically created for your instance of the game. And the next time they'll be created, they'll be completely different. So for example, Rust, every time you go to a new server, it has a brand new map. And then every so often the server is deleted and it creates a brand new map. So for example, here you have a gas station and here you have a harbor, and never again will you see this exact layout with the road like this, with the coastline like this, because it's generated from scratch every single time. And if you think about AI integrations into games, it will be able to take this to the next level, because once it has a bit of understanding of you, it will be able to curate your environment to your needs. And this goes beyond just maps and visuals. This also could happen with audio, right? So recently in our weekly show where I look at the newest AI use cases, we had a quick look at Meta's audio box, which allows you to create various voices, but not just voices, also sounds, and it allows you to restyle voices. So you can literally create any sound effect and any voice and make that voice say anything from scratch. Okay, now pair this with an immersive world and the fact that some of these companies have a lot of data on you and they kind of know you, they will be able to curate not just the visual environment, but also the sound effects, the voices that resonate with you and just with you, through the power of AI. And I think this is one of the bigger trends that we will see unfold over the next years, but I think we will see the first innings of this in 2024. But the progress might be slower than we think, because the Steam marketplace, which is the biggest gaming marketplace on planet Earth, in 2023 actually banned all games that include any form of AI, and they just have to use a careful strategy to navigate the market, and plus there's all the privacy concerns, etc. Either way, the big players might be stopping this because they like the way things are set up right now. Just like Google was very hesitant with pushing a new large language model from within their company, right? Same thing is going to go for these big game developers or marketplaces like Steam, because another example of this would be back in the last crypto bull run, they actually banned all crypto games very, very quickly. And that is just how these things go. They're not super pro innovation. They like the way things are set up right now because they're working for them. They're the number one, right? So this development might take a little bit more time, but hey, look, gaming has become the biggest entertainment category on planet Earth, and there's 1,000 use cases for AI in it. So expect some of those to pop up throughout the next year. And guess what? I'll be here covering them for you on a weekly basis. And I want to explore one last thought, and that is the fact that all of these could actually be combined into one gigatrend. And I want you to realize that this is the fact with most AI tools. They're stackable. If you learn how to create good AI voices, you can pair it with good AI writing, and then you could pair it with good AI video generators, and you get a result that is truly impressive because you combine multiple tools. In the same way, you could combine all of these trends, right? So just think about an AI-powered Siri on your phone that summons your AI girlfriend in a procedurally generated environment that is created just for you, and all your files and all your data are going to be at the tip of your finger, because once all these apps have AI integrations, at a certain point you will be able to give them access to talk to each other. And that is the type of future that I can't even really imagine myself right now. So once we arrive at a future like that, you'll be ready to face it head on because you were there every step along the way. Okay, if you have any big trends for 2024 that I missed out on, please share them in the comments below. And if you want to stay up to date with all the latest AI use cases that you can actually put to work today, then subscribe to the channel, because once a week I'll show you what's new and how to use it. All right, now go unplug for a second and have a glorious 2024.